you had Obama and then you had his vice president, and it's kind of, if you're only catching the headlines, it's like, okay, this is sort of like Obama light. This is like diet
Hmm.
Obama.
And expiring diet Obama is the title.
Expiring diet Obama is the title for sure.
Recording in progress.
Recording in goddamn progress.
Recording an outraged progress.
Recording in just, this is where we're at. All right. So to give the audience a little bit of context, we were in the middle of watching the first presidential debate separately. And at the first commercial, Bamis here texted me and said, "Are you watching?" I said, "Yeah, I'm watching. You want to talk about it?" Because I was like, please, dear God, be like able to talk, because I need to talk to someone instead of watch this horror show.
So that was 100% my intention, by the way.
Oh
But
my God.
I was waiting for you to initiate that. But that was 100% what I was hoping you would say.
You coy motherfucker.
Yeah, I'm good like that.
Yeah. So we're watching the debate. I mean, we've talked a little bit before we went on, but how is this? Because I pay a little more attention to politics. Like, I kind of, I like listen. I have like a daily podcast. I think generally I probably pay a little more attention to politics than you. And you were saying earlier, like, you're like, I've never really watched one of these things live. Not that I like watch all these things live, but I'm just curious, as someone who, like, what's your impression as like someone who's not a dork about this stuff?
Well, it's so I started to keep my ears open to these things a little bit more in the last few years because of what the climate has been. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I actually did watch maybe the entire debate, the one where Biden said, "Hey, shut up, man." When they kept
Right.
when Trump kept interrupting him. I think I watched the whole thing. I didn't watch it live. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I, but I've been paying more and more attention to these things because it's seemed to become more critical, and
Mm-hmm.
also I'm just feeling the effects of it personally, in a
Yeah.
larger way. Um, so my sort of plebeian take on what I was just listening to, which I said to you before. I feel like if the left had a candidate who was just younger and more spry and had more energy, and who could, because he was making good counterpoints to the things that Trump was saying, he's just so old.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, like, when you, like, you know, were telling me about it, and I was like, oh, like, I was like holding my breath, because I'm like, I don't want, because I'm pretty critical of Biden. Like, I definitely can't stand Trump, but like, I've like kind of always disliked Biden. Like, I uh, like, I was really, like, I was paying attention in like 2008, and I canvassed for Obama when I was like 22 or whatever, and I was
You
like so excited
canvassed.
when I canvassed for Obama in the California primary just once. Like, I got inspired, and that was the one time I got like politically active.
Look
So I
at
was like
you
really in.
being patriotic.
I mean, I kind of give a fuck about this country. It's hard. It's not like the easiest country to, like, get all patriotic about, but I suppose none of them are. I mean, there's plenty of things I love about America, but I was very inspired by Obama. Like, I feel like probably a lot of people around our age, like, got kind of galvanized by like a shitty Bush era, and
Hmm.
then a young, charming man who, like, is like, hey, not red states, blue states, but the United States. Like, it was just like, oh yeah, like, Obama was like, in his first campaign, was very much speaking in terms of unity,
Hmm.
and like getting us out of the Iraq War. And I was like, oh, this is an America I can believe in. And then as soon as he picked Biden for vice president, I was like, God damn it, they got us again. Because Biden was like a pro-war. He was like just a normal centrist Democrat that's like pro-war, that's like, but still like in corporations' pockets and all this shit. So I was like, oh, God damn it. And like, I've never been a big fan, but I'm also not a Republican, like just very clearly too far left. And so I'm like watching this thing and being like, oh my God, Biden is shitting the bed. And I think Donald Trump is the end of the American Republic. I think history will look back and definitely say that. And I'm like saying Biden will be part of it too. I'm not saying it's all Trump's fault, but like, he's kind of breaking shit right now. He's breaking how we function for better or for worse. And so, but and I'm like, I think it's for the worse, and I don't like Trump, but I'm like, I also can't stand Biden. And I'm like, all right, so am I being ultra critical? And so when you said like he's making good points, I'm like, yeah, he is. You're right. Yeah, because he's on the right side of history. But he's just so old. You say he's just so old, and I like had an explosion. I was like, and I like just couldn't retain my anger, and like just like I just like started blabbing at you like for 15 minutes about how just, oh my God, I was like embarrassed, and like it's so bad. Maybe it's not as bad. Maybe it's not as bad as I feel like it is, but I feel like Trump is kicking the shit out of Biden in this debate.
And so, first of all, I thought your ranting was footage worthy, which is why I said you should probably start the recording, because I thought,
Ah,
even though
yeah.
even though you were a little bit spiraling into something that was a little bit sparkly and out of control, I thought that there was a substance to it.
Yeah, so we put the recording condom on, and now you guys are all getting our sloppy seconds. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Um, but I wanted to capture some of it, even just for us to be able to go back
Yeah.
and hear it in this moment, which will be not to be like overly whatever, but will be a historic moment.
Yeah.
And I was sort of tempering what you were saying, or attempting to temper what you were saying, by saying like his articulators touching and his vocal cords phonating it has the quality of like an old fucking elderly man talking, and that doesn't inspire much of fucking
It
anything.
doesn't, man. And then he just like blinks for like 5 times in the middle of a sentence. I feel terrible that but I want to, like, it's bad. I want to make fun of him, but I'm like, I know
Oh
I
my
shouldn't, because
goodness.
it's not nice to make fun of old people.
So I'm gonna say what I was gonna say, but then we're gonna maybe examine a little
We're
bit of
probably gonna not.
the dimension of it that's missing for me, because I wasn't watching it. I was driving. I was listening to it. So
Oh,
I don't have a visual element to this. I was just listening to the sounds of their voices. Maybe it's way worse if you look at them.
well, all right. So yeah, I think the visual element, I think, I do think like Biden's bad moments are bad, but his good moments are good. Like, and Trump is just, but it does give Trump an edge though, because he does just appear younger,
Right. Well, what I had said to you before, about how, if we couldn't hear their voices or see them, if it were like, if you were just reading a transcript of it, the content of what they're saying, Trump is doing his usual thing where he's just sort of saying whatever he wants and just making up things that are not.
Yeah.
And then Biden saying, that's not true, but they're kind of both saying that what the other is saying is not true.
Right. Yeah.
The door swings both ways. Um, but yeah, like
So
when
you were talking
he's
about like if you read the transcript, like
yeah,
if you
yeah,
read the
yeah.
transcript, Trump is just saying a whole bunch of sentence fragments, and Biden is like actually putting together thoughts. But like this is like we knew that was going to be the case,
Yeah,
like
and Trump's always got like people that he talks to. A lot of people are saying such and such. These
yeah.
imaginary people that I've made up are all laughing at it. It's a
Because Trump's a
weird.
very good performer, man. He's a good actor. Trump is a good actor.
Yeah, but I'm not taken in by that when he's like, there's a lot of people. I'm like, where are these people? You're just saying that what you're saying has been corroborated by others. You're just saying that.
Yeah. I
He's not citing real quotes or statistics, or he's just saying, I'm not the only one who thinks. You know what I mean?
He's just saying that. It's just like it's the dumbest, but it's also like kind of a powerful rhetorical mechanism, because he's reminding us, yeah, somewhere, somewhere, someone agrees with me. And that's all that's important if it's you. He doesn't need, I don't need experts on my side because somewhere, somehow, someone believes exactly what I'm saying right now. And, you know, then he can just say whatever he wants. And not like that'll galvanize people who aren't paying that. Like, if he's like shooting generally in the direction of the truth, like, I think, like we were saying before, like Trump had this comeback at the end of a Biden thing where he was just like, I don't know what he said. I don't think he knows what he said. And when I heard that, I was like, oh God, I just got punched in the face because
Well,
it was so like, it's going to land so hard. But like, if you read the Biden transcript, it probably is fine. But like the presentation, I'm just like, it does kind of sound like Biden is an old man who doesn't know what he's saying.
like I feel like that's sort of a general commentary on the quality of just like the aesthetics of Biden's speaking. But in that
Yeah.
moment when he said, "I don't know what he said in that last at the end of that last sentence," and neither does he kind of Biden had been trailing off a little bit and doing a very kind of normal thing where he's like, and they had more asylum officers. You know, he just was winding down the energy of that thought. And I heard every single word that he said. So the thing he was actually commenting on, it was not true in that moment. You know what I
Right.
mean?
But it kind of doesn't need to be true because it's in the
Right. Yes.
direction of true. Like it's close
Right.
enough in the direction of true that if you're not paying that much attention and you already are kind of like, you know, Biden's kind of old. I'm not if you're not like if you're like on the fence between Trump and Biden and you are worried about Biden's age and you don't pay that much attention to the madness that is Donald Trump, like if he's not offensive to you and then you hear that line and you're just like, maybe we're only half watching the debate, it lands, you know, it's a soundbite that I think is gonna stick around. I think you're gonna see that shit in some headlines, you know?
Right. I need to mute you for like 1.5 minutes, and I guess you'll just cut this bit out.
Or I'll just go on the greatest monologue of all time.
All right, well, go.
I feel like there's definitely got to be some momentum here around this fucking Biden being old thing. It's like I just so badly wish I genuinely wonder if after this performance, like I was sitting there watching the debate and I was just being like, this is so bad. This is going so poorly. Like Biden is not officially the nominee yet. Like they still have to go to the convention and like make it official. And people have definitely been suggesting, being like, maybe we should like if he can step back before then. And it's like interesting that they're having this debate before either of them are officially the nominees. And I wonder if the DNC or whoever, if the like the powers that be were like, let's have a debate before. So if Biden does terribly, like we still have this one emergency break, which I think they should have pulled this emergency break years and years and years ago. Not years and years. Well, yes, I didn't even want Biden to be the vice president, but I think you know Biden should not have run. I think he should have stuck to kind of what he hinted at, and that he would be a one-term president. And I do wonder now if it's probably just wishful thinking. I have been like looking for like, oh yeah, every time Gavin Newsom makes the headlines, I've been like being like, well, maybe Newsom's actually their, shadow candidate. And so maybe my hope right now is that this is so bad that the Democrats are just like, all right, we're pulling them. We're pulling the emergency brake and we're figuring something else out.
Yeah, but if they pivoted now at this point, like they've already put so much energy into this candidate. I feel like when they for the last election for me, and it was funny. I remember we were still like in the pandemic, and I remember talking to certain people, and they're like, "Well, I'm not crazy about Biden." And I'm like, "All right, listen, it's not about being crazy about Biden. It's about we need someone else. We need to get that person out."
Yeah.
You know, and but then like there are people who are not just convinced by that alone. That it's like, no, at all costs we can't have that person in office, right?
Yeah.
So So at this point, all their political energy has gone into like this is their candidate. Do you think that if they pulled that back and stuck someone else up there, that it wouldn't unravel the whole thing?
I think that it could be. I mean, it would be definitely a big risk, but I think
And
like
were you also
if
secretly hoping the whole time that he didn't die of heart disease while he was in the middle of a sentence?
I'm like, can this guy just have a stroke? And we like be like, hey, sorry, he's not going to be able to do it, but like in my honest opinion, I kind of hope he has a medical event tonight, tomorrow, and they got to replace him. They're just be like, hey, so you know what? Sorry, he's not going to be capacitated, and I think well not I here's what I want. And here's how it can be done is if Biden pulls back, if Biden says, you know what, I'm gonna, for whatever reasons, I'm pulling back and I'm gonna let from now on, I'm gonna let the Democrat, I'm gonna let them elect it on its own. So it's not like he's appointing Kamala. Because it would be a big media spectacle and it would get a lot of attention. And the Democrats could just be like, yes, look at all the good things that Biden, like they could basically run on his record without him having to be the talking head. And you just put a younger, energetic talking head and you say, like, hey, look at Trump. He's a fucking lunatic. And look at Biden, what Biden did. Like, yes, there's a lot of things that aren't great, but he got us out of COVID. He got us out. It would feel more honest. And I think people would respond and they'd be like, "Oh, right, Trump." If you just put like somebody who didn't, if you just put somebody like competent and like intelligent looking that can combat Donald Trump, I genuinely think it would be. I think it would be. I think it would be fine. I think like Gavin Newsom could still beat Donald Trump. I think that. I hope. I like it. Wouldn't. It's not a guarantee, but I would roll the dice on that right now.
I was thinking about while I was in the car while I was listening to it, I was thinking like if he had had some kind of medical event, that made him incapable of performing his duties, and then Kamala Harris had to take over, and if the debate then were between her and Trump, how do you think that would play out?
I just don't know enough about Kamala. Like she hasn't really been in the spotlight. Who did she debated against Pence, which I mean, I don't really remember it that much, but Pence was the old man. I think that was the debate where the fly like landed on his fucking face in the middle of the debate and he had like a bulging red eye. So Pence looked like the ancient woman and she looked like so I think, I just don't, they haven't put her in front of the camera that much, which doesn't really inspire a lot of confidence, I guess.
Right.
But I genuinely don't know. Like I'm like, yeah, but I would rather Harris than Biden right now. If it was up to me, I would rather her than Harris. I would rather probably get somebody else because she's got a lot of the Biden baggage. So somebody who can step away from the administration a little bit and distance themselves from some of the bad shit.
Well,
That would be.
well, well, for someone like me who doesn't have their ear down to the pavement and isn't following the nuances in a way that someone like you is, to me it was like, you had Obama and then you had his vice president, and it's kind of if you're only catching the headlines, it's like, okay, this is sort of like Obama light. This is like diet
Mhm.
Obama.
And expiring diet Obama is the title.
Expiring diet Obama is the title for sure. But then, so like, if you have a candidate who you agree with their policies and you like their general whatever, and then for the following term, then that vice president is now running as a presidential candidate. Like they run on the what's the word on the grace on the energy of that previous president. So
Yeah, on the
I don't
record,
know
yeah.
I don't know anything about Kamala fucking Harris. The few times that I've seen her speak, she seems like a reasonable person. She doesn't seem like a sycophant. And
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, she's also still on the side of the what is you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
she would have automatic benefit of the doubt status.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Me too. Which is why I really think that they should just pull him. They should pull him. They should put her out there. They should put somebody because I really do think it's like anybody. It really like I think insert generic Democrat. I think would be like I kind of think Biden is one of the worst choices we have. Like, insert just generic Democrat who looks good in a fucking suit and who can like appear in front of like who can handle the pressure of the camera. Like
Would it
that's
would it be insane and unprecedented to invert the candidates for it to be her running with him as her vice president? Because then you have the woman thing again. We can still do the first one president. She's a person of color,
oh
like ticks some
yeah.
boxes.
Oh, I like this idea, Bamis. You should be a fucking political strategist. Hell yeah. I would be totally down for that. I mean, I don't like how, I mean, I think probably what you got to do is you got to have Biden just like step all the way back and say like I'll be a senior advisor or whatever, but like I don't think he can be. I think it would be quite the I
Well,
think
it
it would be
seems
a
to
little,
be.
you know.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
No, I was spinning. I didn't say I didn't have anything good.
I eventually something good was going to come out, and still something will. But I want to throw something in before I forget what I was going to say, which may have already happened. Um,
Hmm.
okay. So Biden's up there, and he's defending his points, and he's mounting an argument. He's building an argument that for why he is the best choice. And this is what I did for the economy. This is what I did for on all these different issues, whatever. If they were to flip it, and maybe this is just the reason I'm asking that question is because I know so little about this arena, and if that would just be
Hmm.
absurd and unprecedented. Not that everything about Trump isn't absurd and unprecedented, but
Yeah. We live in
um,
an absurd and unprecedented world. I think it would be more unprecedented to flip him than he just says, I'm pulling myself out of it and my vice president is like stepping up. I feel like that would be more normal, but I think both things would be pretty wildly unprecedented. So who the fuck knows? Let's point the camera at him and see what the fuck happens.
well, I guess she could run with whatever vice presidential candidate and say, like, yeah, we believe in these things that Biden believed in, and we're still going to go after this thing and that thing.
Right.
But I'm a person who's younger with more energy. I have a different perspective because I'm younger. I'm a woman and a person of color. uh, a lot of this stuff, when they were talking about one of the last things I listened to before I came out here was when they were talking about how black families were affected by what was it?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was inflation or I forget exactly what it was.
Right.
Um, you got two old white guys talking about black families, you
Right.
know, and he's like, "I'm from Scranton. We were at the table." She could be like, "Hi, I am a person of color, and
Yes,
I'm a woman." Like they're talking about abortion and black people. She's like, "I'm a black woman," you
yeah.
know. So like, if she kind of held some of those same values being represented by someone more virile or more, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I mean, I know she does have like a lot of political baggage from her time as like district attorney in San Francisco or something. So like she was like there's the a lot of liberals don't like her because there's the phrase like Kamala is a cop because she like prosecuted, she was a more I don't know, because she was a fucking prosecutor and she put people in jail that maybe didn't deserve to be in jail, you know?
Is that a thing? Is
So
that real?
yeah, I mean, like she was part of the justice system. The justice system puts a bunch of like most
Oh,
people,
I see.
like
I see.
most
I
people
see.
that go to jail probably shouldn't go to jail. Like she was a
I see.
prosecutor. It was her job to put people away. You know,
Right. And Trump was a game show host. And
and Temp was a game show host, and he's doing a great job.
was he a successful business person or not? Because I feel like everything I hear is like he inherited everything and never made a good decision and went bankrupt 1,800 times. And
I I think he's a successful business person. And I think he's very good at playing the game. And
uh-huh.
I think if you like he didn't no he didn't inherit all his money, but he certainly did have a leg up, and also I think probably like a leg up both in money and because his father was in business, like a leg up in connections and also like just kind of knowing the language of the like how business works. Because if you're not like It's
but he himself made shrewd decisions, made
I
good
think, yeah.
business deals. Because I
I
haven't
mean,
done the
he made
research on
good.
it.
I think he made good ones and bad ones. Like I think he's a sketchy business. Like if you're just measuring it by money, yeah, I think he made a lot of money. I think he is a sketchy fucking business, uh, person, and I
What do you
think he's
think?
on the sketchier side.
What do you
Um,
think about the when he first ran on the, people saying, well, he was a successful businessman and he'll run the country the way he ran his company. There was a sentiment, there was a widely held belief. It was essentially characterized as he was a successful businessman, so he is a successful businessman, so he'll run the country the way he runs his businesses. And to me, I had a big problem with that because the country is not a business, it's a country. And the
yeah,
goals of being a business owner are not the goals of the leader of a country. The goal
yeah,
in business is always just to make as much money as possible. It's a very kind of one direction thing with a goal that doesn't have to do with equity and fairness
hmm.
and taking care of people. It's, I, you know what I mean? So what's your take on that?
Well, my take on that is I think everything you say is not inaccurate, but I do put value, and I do think more leaders from the private sector. I would like to see more business owners in politics. Probably like ideally smaller business owners, because running an organization and leadership is a real thing. And I think like, and I do have a lot of respect for like as a fellow business owner. Like I think Trump made corrupt, terrible deals and everything like that. And but like and I can see like I guess I can see he how he set the culture of his company that is very successful, but is also very sketchy. Like it's like kind of when you're in business, like there's always a little bit of sketch in business. Like there's just always a little bit of fucking sketch, and like because you just don't. It's impossible to know all the laws unless you can afford all the lawyers, and if you can afford all the lawyers, then you can afford to figure out how to dance among the laws.
That's very well said.
But no, I give him a lot of credit for running successful organizations for a long time, and I do like to see people in the private. But like he ran the country exactly as I expected him to,
So what
and
you're
that
saying
was
is that
like
you're a mobster is essentially what you're saying.
I'm saying that like yeah, he is kind of basically like one step away from being a mobster, and he ran the country exactly as I would have expected him to, and that's why I don't want him to be president again.
Well, I was making a joke and I was indicting you, but
Oh well, I want to be president because I'm a mobster. So
yeah,
yes, please elect
that's
Gayev.
when my next thing is like, all right, so soon I'm going to be canvassing for you, am I not?
No, dear God, no. The
No,
world will
never.
fall apart before that. I mean, I have thought about just like trying to like do like local stuff, but and that's if I have any like political ethos, it's like I want people to get more involved in the local level because I think that's where like I do kind of think like national elections are in a lot of ways a big giant fucking distraction. And if we all paid a lot more attention to like who was the mayor and who was on city council and school boards and stuff, like we'd all probably be a lot happier and our communities would be a lot stronger. So if I was going to get involved in politics, I think I would try to get involved in local politics. But it's a different lifestyle because it's like you're just it's a tough life, it's tough life to be in, have that kind of responsibility, I think, and to be
W-
employed by the government. Like it's just a different life.
would you ever seriously consider it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like, I think probably what the most likely thing is, like, if I like am bored and like have extra resources, I'll like, because maybe my number one like political belief is that the two-party system is terrible. So I think I might just like try to make a loud, obnoxious third party run for Congress or something, and just try to get like a bunch of media attention to like intending not to win, but like get a bunch of media attention to say like, hey, we need to get more third parties and we need to be involved at smaller local levels and we need to pay attention to like more than just like the 280-year-olds that are running for president.
Right.
Even
Well,
though like president is, I don't need it yet. If I was going to do
well,
it, I'd run for like town council or some shit.
but don't people sometimes have that sort of idea? Like, I'm going to make this third thing, and it just doesn't work because the machine of the two party thing is so strong that
Yeah.
eventually you got to fall in one or the other. Or I guess maybe if you're talking about something that's not on that scale, then you could potentially be not one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, I think yes, there are people like, there are third parties out there, and third parties right now, like my favorite third party right now is the Forward Party. And they're very much trying to do it from bottom up. Because yes, you could run like Bernie Sanders doesn't technically run as a Democrat. Oh, maybe he does now, but he didn't used to run as a Democrat. Um, and in Senate, he was technically independent, but like basically he was doing everything with the Democrats. I think like, but he also doesn't like rail against the two party system. I think my like number one thing that I would talk about, I would really, if I was to run a like a Congress or higher level election, would be railing against, just two party control. If I was to do national level, if I was to do local level, I don't know. Like I'd probably just like no, I'd probably I don't know. I don't know enough about local politics to know what I would do, because I think it has a lot. I just think it has a lot more to do with like being involved in your community and connecting with people, and I'm not. So, you know.
I keep thinking of Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec. Did you ever actually watch Parks and Rec? No, right?
No, a little bit here and there, but not a lot.
Oh well. Then I think our conversation has run aground. Do you have more things to say, or should we pivot to something else? Do you have other things to say about this debate that we just watched part of, and then abandon that so that we could just
Handle it.
air our collective grievances together?
Well, I just want to know, and actually, it might be almost bedtime, so maybe this is actually, we can just like wrap up, talk about politics and the debate, and then make this our politics episode.
All right, very good.
Well, I guess I'm very curious, like if you had to like if you tried to put yourself in a neutral spot, like would this debate have swayed you either way? Like obviously you are who you are, but if like you try to like detach yourself and you're just like, if you were an undecided voter, would you like how do you think you would receive this debate?
I don't know if I can really answer that question, man. I like if I were
Hmm.
an undecided voter, that would mean that that's a completely different.
Yeah.
I've spent years now just kind of watching what's been unfolding, and the the channels through which I receive my political information have been telling me the whole time I've got a very one-sided story
Hmm.
on all of these things, and so
Right.
from the very beginning, I was just when Trump was running, it was like, okay, well, we caught him doing this thing, and it was like, okay, we got him. No, okay, he's still going, and it's like, and then he was recorded talking about they let you assault them through their dresses. If you're famous, you could just do it. Okay,
Hmm.
no, he's still going. Uh,
Hmm.
so and then he got to office, and I'm in the sort of the artistic community, so everyone is always on the same side of the
Hmm.
aisle with that.
Yeah.
And then we had the pandemic, and then he did the bleach thing, and
Right.
he was very clearly, it seemed pretty clear to me, and I'd be open to hear someone tell me something different, something that made sense, but it seemed very much like he was still pursuing an agenda rather than trying to deal with the crisis we were facing. And he kept saying it wasn't real, and
Hmm.
and when people kept getting sick and dying, and then he was like, oh, take this drug that there's no data to suggest that you should take this drug, and then that and no
Right.
and no and no medical and then and then all the Fauci thing, and then when he said the bleach in the sunlight thing, and
Right.
that just added to it. So that by the time we had the election between him and Biden, it was like, all right, we gotta get this guy out, and
Mhm.
so I can't put myself in a neutral place,
Right.
and then all the Jordan Klepper shit that I've seen, like all his diehard supporters are all people who are like, yeah, and then when they're confronted with facts, they're like, no, I don't care about facts. I only care about Jesus, and all of the
Mhm.
times when he's very clearly played into the sympathies of people on their very specific things that he clearly doesn't mean any of it, but he's playing a game, and then uh, like all of it is so obviously synthetic and phony balonchka. And then when you listen to him speak, every time he speaks, he can't even admit to being wrong. Like he won't admit to misspeaking. There are compilations
Mhm.
of him
Yeah.
saying furniture and future of their kids and will be do like I, I can't imagine what it would be like to look at him as a viable, like, oh well, maybe he'll
Right.
do a good job. He keeps saying, he said it tonight. He kept saying that they're fighting. The other side is fighting for abortion after birth. I feel like Biden should have just shut that
Yeah.
down right away. Like nobody's talking about
Yeah. Like that's
murdering living babies.
yeah.
So I don't know. I didn't answer your question. I just didn't say much of
Yeah.
anything.
No, I mean, I think you described pretty. I think you described pretty accurately what I mean. Like why people just will not like why people and in my opinion correctly just like they're like I'm just voting against Trump no matter what. And obviously, I think that's a somewhat fair position.
Oh, I
I
have a
try.
question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Should I
No, no,
let you
no. You got a
continue,
question?
or
No, no, no.
I
I
have a
want to hear your question.
I have a question. It's about the Jews because I remember, like, when I've spoken to my father, and my father is a fan of his, and that has to do with his policies regarding Israel.
Mm.
But something came up during the debate. Do you remember what it was? Something came up. They were talking about Israel and Palestine,
Yeah.
and and what was that? What were they talking about?
I kind of remember a little bit. I mean, I'll be honest, I was a little deep in my cups. So I wasn't paying that much. After the first like 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, this is going terribly. And like I wasn't like paying word for word attention. Um, but he like Trump said something about like, I don't know, Trump he said something, I forget what he said. I don't remember. But I remember I felt like he was like he like threw a little Palestinian, like he was just like, if I was a Palestinian, if I would do that if I was a Palestinian. Like he just like pulled a real Trump move, but supported Israel real strongly and said, I would run if I were the Palestinians, but also Palestinians are good people, something like that.
Right, right. I wish I could remember exactly what it was, because it seemed like it was something that in some way was injurious to the Jews, which went against that. Because
Mm,
I like my parents are Jewish, they love him. My spouse's parents are, well, one of them is a non-practicing Jew, the other is a church-going Catholic, but
hmm
they don't like that they're getting taxed so that people who like aren't working are benefiting
hmm
from government programs and all of this, and they're taking all of our earnings away.
hmm
um so I don't know. Like, again, I'm speaking from a place, and I might be hated by, if there's anyone listening to me now, because I in a way am like the left's version of some of these people wearing American flags and being interviewed by Jordan Klepper, because I'm not taking the time, honestly, to invest too much, because I grew up with like George Carlin in my ear. I was always a
hmm
huge fan of Carlin, and his take on politics was always kind of he's got a bit. I forget which show it is. It's one of the late '90s ones, I think, where he says he's got a bit about the fact that he didn't vote and how people are like, well, if you don't vote, then you don't get to complain. And he's like, well, no, if you vote and you elect corrupt
Mhm.
politicians, then you don't get to complain. Like,
Mhm.
this country was bought and sold and paid for, and the shit they shuffle around every 4 years or whatever, whatever. And it's obviously, first of all, it's comedy. Secondly, it's
Yeah,
very much one sided and oversimplified. Um,
yeah,
but I'm just starting to pay attention, and I'm mostly just asking the questions. But those are
right.
the questions that are coming to my mind. Does that make sense?
That does, yeah, it makes sense. And I think George Carlin is a perfect. I think he's a very good place to start, like building your political consciousness, because I think if you start building your political consciousness, like just in the like you need like you're so yeah, you're like you kind of admit that you like are in the artist lefty echo chamber, but at least like I don't like Carlin is probably definitely towards the left, but he's also a little bit anarchist, you know?
Right.
So it's like you're not just like someone who's gonna automatically toe the party line, you know, because you're still gonna be like, well, you know, you've still got your hackles up. You can still hear bullshit when you see it, but hear bullshit when you see it. That's the thing that I said. Um, no, I think I've run out. I think I've run out of steam after that.
There's another bit from another comedian. I'm going to quote Chris Rock. He talked about, the flaw again in the two-party system, or aligning yourself with one or the other. It's like, and he made it funny, and he had a whole bit. There's some shit that I'm liberal about, and there's some shit that I'm conservative about. Like
Hmm.
don't join a certain thing and then all of their beliefs and policies or whatever, because like, listen to the particular issue and let it swirl around a little bit.
Yeah,
But we
that's people don't really do that anymore.
Well, I feel like when you go to the voting booth, they're like, when you have all the options, it's like, well, okay, well, who do you really want to vote for? It's like you can
Right.
you can you can
It's like,
vote for Joe, presidential candidate, but it's really one of these two people is going to be the next president. And do you want
yeah.
to try to make a difference on which of those? Okay, what's your are we wrapping it up? Is there another question? Can I do another question, or what's the vibe right now?
I think you can do another question, but it's probably the final question of the evening. So make it a good one.
All right, the Electoral College.
The Electoral College. I mean, it's definitely outdated, and I think should probably be changed or fucking abolished entirely.
You
I kind of
vote,
understand why.
you
Yeah,
vote in your state, and then someone represents what your state believes. And then, like, as
yeah,
an aside, they're like, "Oh, by the way, here's who really won," but that's not who's going to win.
right. Yeah, exactly. That's not necessarily who's going to win. So like that's why
That
it's like
that seems insane to me, man. That seems
it's
I
totally
what
insane.
so. But the
You think
question is, so what
we
do
don't
you
have a
think?
we don't have a democracy. We don't have a fucking democracy, bro. We got a pseudo democracy,
We got a pseudo
you know?
democracy.
Yeah. I mean, and that's just one of the many reasons.
To me, that just seems so, like, where does that, why is that? If you have 100 people, if you have whatever number of people, you're not counting what the total number of votes are. You're just counting
Yeah.
like this state, and there's like, that's not, how is that? That's crazy, because people try to
I mean,
win states.
there's historical reasons behind it, and basically it's like to make land more valuable than people, but that's a different that's a whole different thing. But the electoral college needs to fucking go. Like that's 100% the truth. And I'm gonna use that as a transition. I gotta go too because it's bedtime.
You have to
So
secede from this conversation.
I have to secede from the conversation. It's true, I must.
But if I don't allow you to secede, we can go to war. We can have a civil war.
We can have a civil war over this podcast. I tell you, we will, motherfucker.
If I show up at your house with a musket,
I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I believe you could shoot me with a musket.
what if I came to your house and I was like, "We're gonna keep talking about this."
Are you in your car right now, Bamis? Oh shit.
I'm almost there. I'm right.
All
Pour
right.
me a drink. I'm coming. Well, this was
Perfect.
an interesting impromptu session.
Yeah, let's
let's give it a listen and
toast
see if
out.
we want to publish
Yeah,
it. Okay,
let's toast
let's.
out and see if we want to expose this conversation to the world.
All right, propose a toast then, will you?
Here's to voting, drinking, and voting.
If you vote, may you vote for a worthy candidate.
If you drink, may you drink something that kills your brain cells.
And if you vote,
And if you vote,
remember Sammy Jenkins.
Sammy Jenkins. It's not about the whiskey. Sláinte.
Hail the Dark Lord.
Peace and love.